welcome to episode number 192 of the LSR podcast. My name is Matt Brown, joined each and every week by the brightest minds in all of the gaming industry. With me, I got my two main men here in Dustin Gouker and Adam Candee. You can follow them on the Twitter machine for absolutely free, and you should, at Dustin Gouker, at Adam Candee 2, E's no Y. If you hate yourself, you can follow me at Matt Brown M2. If you want to take 2 seconds, hit the pause button, go down, 5-star review, leave us a little good rating in there and a nice little couple of words that would help us climb the charts as well. And we certainly want to get as many listeners to this as we possibly can. We'll talk Bally's, we will talk Colorado, we will talk some weirdness going on in college baseball as well. But Dustin, you listen, here's our disclaimer. We are not stock experts. We are not financial advisors. We are none of these things. We're not telling you what to do with your money, what not to do with your money, or what anyone else is going to do with their money. This is just news, and we have some fairly big news when it comes to gaming stonks.
No, buy all the stonks. What do you know? Come on. No, don't do that. Provide just information here, but this is really interesting news because you're going to be able to finally trade. Looks like the market leader in sports betting here in the United States in FanDuel. We had the annual general meeting of Flutter, the parent company of FanDuel, and shareholders overwhelmingly voted to have a secondary stock listing here in the United States, which means, right now, obviously Flutter publicly traded overseas, and you are going to be able to, they're spinning it off and have the secondary listing in the United States. So you will be able to go out and buy FanDuel stock, possibly as early as the fourth quarter of this year, if everything goes according to plan. But yeah, I mean, this is the access to capital that they've been waiting for. Obviously they've been doing well on overseas in that market, but having access to people understand the North American market a little bit better in terms of investors and all of that, I'm sure this is going to be additional capital for FanDuel as they plot their world domination plans here in the United States.
Adam, we can only guess. We don't know for sure, but we can only guess. We saw as every new gaming stock was kind of getting listed and kind of getting going there, that there was a little bit of excitement and people were coming in and there was a lot of action going on. And one of the things you talked about a few weeks ago on this, when this first started to come out, was just the fact that just the volume of trading over here, people just getting involved, is just so much higher than it is overseas. And so I could see where Flutter is, I'm surprised it actually took this long, but I can see why Flutter wants to get going over here.
Yeah, keep in mind that Flutter has been listed in London for quite a long time, but we're talking about a secondary U.S. listing for Flutter here, which would give people access to FanDuel stock. And so to the volume point that you're making, Matt, I mean, the trading volume here would be significantly higher. I'll quote this number directly. The company's average volume, according to Yahoo Finance, as of, I believe, February of this year, was 632,000 trades daily. The average daily volume of DraftKings here in the U.S. with its NASDAQ listing is 12.8 million. So you obviously are getting a much, much higher volume here in the U.S. And perhaps more importantly, you're getting the company that has, for the first 5 years of legal U.S. sports betting, been the clear and unquestioned leader in this space. Like, there's a fair amount of hope built into the DraftKings narrative, right? When you talk about being able to participate in that stock, and we saw it get very high, we saw it get very low, and now we've seen it have a mild bounce back this year. I believe yesterday closed around $22 a share. And so, as Dustin said, as Matt said, we are not stock experts by any stretch of the imagination. But let me ask you guys this. Do you think we could just change one letter and call ourselves stonk experts? Could we at least try to say that we know a little bit about the stonks?
You know what was funny? After one episode of this show, like 2 years ago, I went in and registered legalstockreport.com just for fun, just to have it. I actually still have that. I still actually have that domain. So if we ever do want to make a full pivot outside of this, we do at least have the domain to get going with it, guys. So just that's out there. Dustin, when you want to make the full pivot over to Stonk Expert, Adam, when you want to get out of the industry, we want to start pimping, whatever the new penny stocks are and things like that, I've got the domain for us already.
That's the forward-thinking that has made you the industry leader among industry leaders, Matthew.
More one of those things where it's kind of like, hey, for $11.99, what won't I do for a laugh? You know, it's like it cost me like It cost me like $11.99 to get the domain. I'm kind of like, yeah, I mean, that's like, yeah, I'm going to do that every single time, right?
I'll give you a quick side story that goes along with that. During the pandemic, when I got my dog, all the dog training was on Zoom, right? I couldn't meet anyone in person. And part of the training work that I did with the trainer required me to crate the dog and like walk away. But the only place I could walk away was to go into the bathroom. So I was basically like in the bathroom waiting out the dog, freaking out being in his crate. And the trainer loved it. He thought it was the funniest thing in the world. He's like, "Oh, are you doing it from your bathroom today?" So the guy's name was Mike. And I decided the nicest gift I could give Mike for the work that he did for me was to register at mikesbathroomwork.com and give it to him as a gift.
Yeah.
He was very grateful.
I was going to say, he probably loved it, right?
I mean, we all buy domains just for funsies, right? I don't play Barstool still. If anybody out there in Penn Entertainment wants my domain, it was like $4.99. I'm like, yes, maybe I'll do something with it someday. You never know.
Yeah, it's like I think I have like 3 other ones where every year it comes up and it's like, hey, you need to, it's going to automatically renew. And I'm like, I should probably just cancel that this year. And then I never do. And then it just renews. Yeah. And then it just renews and then it just renews and then it renews. And so we should have started GoDaddy.
Channel99.com.
Yeah, we should have started GoDaddy, by the way, if anyone was wondering. We definitely we should have done that back in the day. All right, Adam, let's head over to a company in which we were kind of curious as to the direction of everything. Listen, they were a topic of many a podcast that we had here because there was acquisitions fast and furious. We were thinking that it was going to make a big splash, and then basically launches were delayed and or didn't happen somewhere along the way. Now we have a major pivot for Bally's.
We do, and we expected there to be a shift in strategy considering previous CEO of the parent company of Bally Bet, Bally's Lee Fenton, resigned at the beginning of the year, and a new CEO, Robeson Reeves, was installed by the board following what you could rightly call close to $3 billion in unsuccessful acquisitions by Bally's. They spent more than $2 billion on GameSys in the online gaming space, and they also purchased Monkey Knife Fight and Bet.Works. And so what ultimately happened? Well, none of those things worked out for Bally in the long term. They ended up shuttering the Monkey Knife Fight product, and the Bet.Works acquisition never worked out. They launched one version of the platform. It didn't go anywhere. They kept talking about a 2.0 version, which also really didn't go anywhere. And so now what you're going to see from Bally is a pivot in a direction that is the opposite direction of where a lot of U.S. facing sports books have gone. They have signed a long-term deal with Candee. Hey, remember Candee? Candee, which provided the back end for a number of U.S. sports books, including DraftKings, for quite a long time, and had been seeing sports books, including Barstool and DraftKings, move away from a third-party product for the idea of building something in-house. Well, now Bally is going to use Candee for its trading solution, and that is interesting in a number of ways. I think it's Bally saying, okay, we can't reinvent the wheel here. It didn't work. We tried it. We tried to come up with our own product. It didn't work out, and they're kind of accepting the fact that they need to go with something a little more straightforward. The other thing is, this is a huge win for Candee. Right? This is actually a U.S.-facing sportsbook, albeit one that does not register among a number of people, but it is a U.S.-facing sportsbook saying we want to use third-party technology. And just that narrative in and of itself is such a shift that it actually goes to the point that Christian Nyland, the CEO of Candee, made on their Q4 call when he said, we believe that there are going to be sportsbooks that decide that doing it themselves is not the best way to go. Now, we haven't seen DraftKings walk back from SB Tech, and we haven't seen Barstool and Penn walk back from the Score. So I don't think that that's necessarily a long-term trend, but for Candee, it is a short-term win to be able to say that Bally Bet is going to be using them for their trading.
Yeah, this was an interesting deal here when it comes down to it, Dustin, because we know there was a big acquisition made. It was going to be in-house tech, in-house trading. There was going to be all of that was going on with Bally's. And then it really did something have a failure to launch, basically, essentially everywhere along the way. We were expecting them to get into market X, Y, and Z. It never really happened. It was either delays or something wasn't working along, that they thought. And now it just has to basically start completely over at this juncture. And I look, they're smarter than we are. I assume they've run the numbers, they've done whatever. I guess it seems like the juice is worth the squeeze, but it is certainly behind the 8 ball now, and certainly playing catch up.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think we say this a lot, but I think there was a fair amount of skepticism from all of us when all of these acquisitions were going down that Bally was going to really break through. And yeah, this is the reboot, I guess, of it, but it's pretty clear they haven't really all these acquisitions they did have not been integrated in any real way or very well. If you were looking at I still don't know what their path forward is, other than they're just not giving up. But there's still a will to do this here. This will definitely be different. But I still look at the value proposition. I'm not sure what it is for them, other than like they've really not broken through in any way in any market. I mean, casino is going to be the part, I think, that they between the synergy between that and the rest of the business, that there's a lot of that behind this too. But to think that Bally's right now, even with this this new move, is going to be a major player in U.S. sports betting, I don't see that right now, and I'm not quite sure what the end game is out of this, other than like they obviously are admitting they've messed up. They're trying to try a new path forward and still make this work. And obviously the proof is in the pudding. We'll see where this goes in the coming months and years.
Yeah, Adam, when it comes down to it, it's kind of like we look at some of these guys that are coming in, specifically having the physical presence with casinos and whatnot. I mean, I don't have no inside knowledge. I don't think any of us do when it comes to this, but it's almost like this is just let's stay somewhat relevant somewhere along the way in hopes that there is widespread casino adoption down the line, and then we're not just basically starting from ground zero. Then it kind of almost seems like that has to be the strategy, I guess, at this point, because any real market penetration from a sportsbook side without spending millions upon millions of dollars in marketing things, which doesn't look like they were willing to do in the first place, seems kind of far-fetched.
What's interesting to me is if I were a business analyst, which I am not, I would say that it's almost a weird reversal of the DFS playbook come to life here for some of these smaller operators, where the idea is just to get people in on your technology and build up your database and hope that there is a product that is legalized down the line, which was sports betting, which is now online gaming and iGaming, that you're just hoping that in the long game that the DraftKings of the world run out of seed money, and that maybe that market share drops to a point where you can have a robust iGaming offering that is supplemented by having people coming into your physical casinos that you can bring onto that platform. I'm not saying I think it works, but I'm not saying I also don't see how else some of these less than 1% operators end up making any sort of hay out of the sports betting product, right? Out of the online sports betting. I don't see how it becomes something for them unless there is a long play into the iGaming space, which again is just kind of ironic when you think about who's leading in sports betting and how they built up their databases and product in the first place.
Guys, because I am a man of many talents, and one of those talents is being able to do two things at once, I was able to go to GoDaddy as we were doing this little bit right here, this segment, and Bet DKFD MGM Caesars365.com is available. So we can just cover every single one of the players out there or whatever, all in one domain. So bet DKFD MGM Caesars365.com, $11.99 for the first year. We can actually add .co, .us, and .info, which is $3 more, $14.85 for the first year. So,
really rolls off the tongue, that domain.
Yeah, I mean, it really, I mean, you can see the ad right now, just visit betdkfdmgm Caesars365.com and sign up for come on, Adam, it sounds great, doesn't it?
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-MATT-BROWN.
Oh, it's so good though, and who knows? Just for the LOLs, I might actually.
Is this what's going to be on LSR after dark? Is just us buying domains?
Yes, awesome domains that we never do anything with ever. It costs us hundreds of dollars a year that we never make 1 cent off of. Somewhere down the line. All right, Dustin, let's head up to Colorado.
Yeah, we got news out of Colorado that Department of Revenue approved grant funding the Colorado Athlete Wellbeing Program for athletes that are dealing with harassments. Now, this is not just for sports betting, but obviously has intersections with sports betting, because we've seen quite obviously that there's been a lot of harassment of athletes, both pro and college, related to sports betting, and people not winning their bets, not losing prop bets, things like that. That's it's particularly rampant on social media, we believe, and all of that. And we've seen some evidence. So it's good that we're seeing this. Of course, this is not, athletes might become under harassment for other reasons, just for losing a game that has nothing to do with gambling. But, I think this, short of being able to ban people from social media or from sportsbooks around this is at least doing something around an issue that, we've seen, ESPN and others write about this. And it's something that, whether we believe it's tied to legal sports betting or not, it's something that's getting play, and something that deserves to be, called out and helping athletes, because a college athlete who, misses the shot has no idea it turned a prop bet or a spread bet or a money line bet, any of those things. They might be harassed by gamblers, and, privately or publicly on social media, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. So I'd say this is a good thing, and, we should be, probably doing more of this across, this is just Colorado, but should we be doing something like this nationally? Should other states be looking to do this? Because it's not a problem that's going to just go away easily, and at least supporting athletes that are facing this seems like the bare minimum we can and should be doing.
Yeah. Adam, I don't know how easy it would be to do, but certainly something that I think that as long as there's something in place, and if anyone gets super egregious with all of this, that there is at least something you can point to say, hey, look, this was in the terms and conditions when you signed up. You tweeted this guy 57 times in a row, calling him all these nasty names. Your account is suspended for 6 months or whatever. But whatever it might be, somewhere along the line, I think that having something written that people agree to, that now there is repercussions if they go overboard with all of this stuff, because look, I have been saying this well before sports betting, right? I mean, well before. I think people, if you tweet at athletes negative things, whatever, I think you're a gigantic loser. What better? I cannot imagine what more you have going wrong for you in life than to go in and do this Twitter storm of a guy that missed a shot late in the game and tell him how horrible he is and that you hope horrible things happen to his family. I think you are the biggest loser on the face of the planet. Now add in that there's money involved with that too, not just fandom, but also money involved. I'm all for slapping these guys' hands, and then repeat offenders, bigger suspensions, and who knows what, if it gets crazy lifetime bans, all the stuff like that should certainly start to, I hope, make its way into kind of terms and conditions for these books.
I have to think that the Venn diagram of people who tweet nasty things at athletes, especially college athletes, and people who post eggplant emojis and raindrop emojis at thirst traps has to be just a one circle, right?
Yes.
There's not even a little bit of overlap, right?
Yes.
It's just the exact same person who's doing all of these things. It's amazing to me that this is something that has to be dealt with. But I put this on the agenda here for us to talk about for 2 reasons. First of all, I think it's interesting that they're developing the program, right? It's a $250,000 grant. And I thought the most interesting part is that while it's also going to allow mental health services to be more accessible to athletes, this was the line that caught my attention. The app will combine a mental health assessment with an avenue for reporting and investigating harassment. Kindbridge will use its network of investigators and resources to attempt to find the person responsible and share the intel with law enforcement. I think just the idea of deterrent in the first place could be something that is both useful and hopefully repeatable throughout the U.S. if this works out. Now, I think about this much like a pilot program. There's no proof it's going to work, right? But the fact that Colorado is going to dedicate some resources to at least trying something to see if it can be accomplished, I think is a great move. The second reason I included this is because I disagree fundamentally with the idea that sports betting being legalized and regulated in the U.S. has led to this massive increase. And I think that our old friend
certainly is not. You're
Chris
right.
Grove
Yes.
has been the one leading this charge with the fight against some of the idea online to say we also need to look at the fact that harassment in general in the last few years has grown for a number of segments of society, and the online channel being made available and the ease of access that people have to be able to do this with college athletes in particular, pro athletes as well. But when we talk about under 21 and how vulnerable they are to this, then I think we have to make a serious, well-rounded consideration of what's really leading to this instead of just the binary look of legal sports betting equals more harassment. And I'm pointing specifically to the ESPN story that that linked the two together. And David Purdom, who does a lot of great work in the sports betting space, was going back and forth with Chris Grove, saying that he thought that that his conclusion was it had led to more harassment. I'm not saying that's not possible, but I'm saying making the link without a much more serious consideration of how easily available it is now and just how much hate speech has grown in general is incomplete.
Yeah, I like David for sure. David can take the L on this one. Like that's it, there. That is not. I have, as someone who's been on the Twitter machine since basically the beginning of all of this and has followed all of this stuff. I worked in sports my entire life, right? I mean, like I've worked in some sort of tangentially, whether it be in sports gaming space or just sports in general. And this is not because of the adoption of gaming. I mean, listen, it extends beyond that even further. Dustin, you and I just giving opinions on things or whatever, the safety of anonymity for these people online allows them to be way more nasty than they would be in person or in any other situation in life. You and I have dealt with a lot of these various different things. I kind of laughed off some of the different things, but I mean, guys, just to let you know, I'm a nobody, and I certainly have cost nobody any money, by missing a shot in a game or whatever and all stuff like that. I had a guy send me a link, an eBay link to a rickety chair, and then an Amazon link to a rope, and like basically saying like, here's the chair and the rope that you can use to hang yourself and things like that. And again, I'm a nobody, and I've certainly cost nobody money, by missing a shot or all this. So like this has been going on for a long, long time. It's just we're hypersensitive to it now because of the whole gaming thing or whatever. But this is not like, oh, all of a sudden we're getting way more of this because people are betting. That's just not the truth. Fans sometimes are idiots. People sometimes are idiots. The condition of anonymity also helps them be a bigger idiot. When we have this thing, and I always like go back to this, and not to get on a soapbox and get off on a tangent here or something like that, but it's like, okay, you're driving. It's like a road rage thing, and then elevate it by 100 times when you can go online and you don't even have to look at the person. When you're in a car, and the only thing separating you and the person right next to you is this tiny little piece of glass between both of your cars, you have no problem turning and MFing that person like over and over again and flipping them the bird and all that. However, if you stepped 6 inches outside of the car and you were both standing face to face, you would never do it. Like, it's just like that little bit of glass between you turns you into like this superhuman or whatever. And it's the same deal that goes on like online, right? It's just like, you have that barrier between you and the human being, and that's been going on. And so, Dustin, you've experienced it. I've experienced it. These athletes, I've worked extensively with athletes, especially when I was in the UFC, right? When I was working in MMA, almost primarily with dudes getting like some of the worst things said to them on the face of the play. And this was a decade ago, right? I mean, like this was well before any of this was going on. And so I have to kind of push back on the whole deal that it's, getting worse because of sports betting.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just one piece of the puzzle is where I come at it from. It's like, yes, there's probably more people. There's definitely more people betting because I think we know at this point, it's not just, clearly there's new people betting who don't bet very much. But some of these people are also, it's not a problem. Yeah, like you said, it's not a problem that just started. Like this goes back even before DFS and people accosting people for ruining their regular fantasy teams, which sometimes don't even have that much money or any money. And they'll still yell at athletes online. And like Adam said, it's a confluence of social media, access to people, hate speech, and just what's happened in U.S. society over arguably just the last 5 years or so.
The normalization of being an asshole.
Like being mean and an asshole, right? Yeah, like these are like all of these things combined. Yes, it's not just I also reject that it's just more legal sports betting, because people are now emboldened to do this, because we see this again outside of the sports betting. We're not going to get too political here, but we see this everywhere in society now. It's not that people are just more bold about expressing their opinions, hate speech, things like just saying things that you wouldn't say to a person in person. Although even we saw that example with Bradley Beal recently in the NBA. But it's not just legal sports betting, and this is going to dovetail into our next item as well. That this is not just a legal sports betting problem. I think it's the fact that we see this is a holistic, larger problem. And like Adam said, it's really interesting that we're seeing somebody try to do something about it rather than just wishing the problem away.
Adam, yes, this kind of does go into this, and this came across my radar, obviously, because of the teams involved in. When it first came out, very, very little details, and I still don't know for sure if we have everything that we're looking for in this story, but it was interesting that Ohio decided to flag a collegiate baseball game.
Yes, for those who don't know, Matt might have a very special interest in one of the teams involved in this, talking about an LSU-Alabama baseball game. And the short version of this, if you haven't heard, is that Ohio's executive director issued a notice to all sports books in the state that they needed to halt any wagering involving the Alabama baseball team. Now, that is very specific, right? College baseball, if you don't know, is not exactly a high volume trading experience for any sports book.
You got to do several scrolls to find the menu if you're looking.
You really have to be digging to find this. And the fact that a college baseball game in another state is what ultimately had a flag raised by U.S. Integrity to Ohio regulators is certainly worth our attention. Now, we don't know much more than that, and I can't give you much more than that other than, first reported by ESPN that this was an issue. We don't know if wagering will, again, become available on Alabama baseball moving forward. The statement that just came out from the university, I'll read this directly because we just saw this recently. Alabama Athletics became aware of this situation Monday evening and is actively seeking information about the report. Doesn't really tell us anything, but we've seen essentially these no comments from everyone, right? We tried to talk to U.S. Integrity. They said they couldn't comment on the ongoing investigation. Obviously, the Ohio regulators are just standing by the statement that they put out, halting betting on this. So, again, the things to understand: not a high trading volume experience when it comes to college baseball, and we are probably talking about extremely low limits when it comes to betting on a college baseball side. The bet happened somewhere in Ohio. We've heard rumors as to which sports book it involved. We'll wait till we have a little bit more confirmation before we put that out there. But it is an ongoing situation, and it is, I think you guys would agree, an example, once again, of the regulated market doing what it's supposed to do and finding these things before they become bigger problems.
And Dustin, so this is kind of goes back to where we say that this stuff really does work, right? Because low level tennis, all these things like that, where it's low volume, it's low limits, it's whatever. And if you see a game just all of a sudden start getting popped, or a low level tennis match or anything start getting popped, it raises red flags. And it's why U.S. Integrity was able to flag something like this. Guys, I did a little bit of my own research to try and figure out if I could figure out anything that was going on here. I do know the game in question, the starting pitcher for Alabama got scratched. So he had back tightness and ended up getting scratched in the game. My guess is that maybe it got out that they were going to be starting a lesser pitcher or something like that. And maybe bets started rolling in on LSU. Again, just speculating, just guessing, but that's all I could figure out that I saw from this.
And to add to that, Matt, if you're not familiar with college baseball, your Friday night starter is your number one starter.
Right.
That can make a major difference.
So again, just speculation. I don't know. There was no details given on all of this, Dustin, but regardless, again, it's kind of hey, let's chalk one up for the good guys here. Let's chalk one up for what we keep and continue saying, which is, hey, this is a good thing, guys. We're able to catch all these things, all these concerns that regulators want to bring up as to why sports betting could be bad is actually proof in the pudding right here as to why this is actually good, because you monitor these things. They're going to happen regardless. It's going to happen anyway. And so to be able to catch it and do something about it is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, we're a broken record about this
Yes.
stuff, but we have to keep playing the broken record so that people listen, right? Because exactly, but people are going to also hold this up and say, "Oh, we need to ban betting on college baseball or betting on in-state college teams." They're going to use this as that, but it is exactly what you have said, Matt. This is an example of it working. You would not catch this otherwise if the regulated market didn't happen in the U.S. because you can bet on these games anywhere, offshore right now, and have been for years, and who knows what we've missed. And maybe this was a real integrity problem. Maybe it wasn't, but it's clear that this is an example of it working. And it's not like I cringe because I fear if whatever comes out of this is people are going to hold this as, oh, we need to stop college betting. That is not the lesson of this.
Yeah.
The lesson is we are again, and to emphasize what Adam said, that this is low limits. There's not a ton of money being traded on college baseball results. It's not going to happen. Nobody wants to expose themselves to that for some of the reasons we just talked about. But we have, yes, this is an example of the system working, and please don't use it the other way and decry betting on college sports and things like that.
Yeah, Adam, you bring it up. I mean, we're looking, I don't know because I don't bet college baseball, but I mean, $500, maybe $1,000 limits. I can't imagine that it's much like higher than that when it comes down to it. LSU was a minus 245 favorite anyway, so nobody was getting rich on this, but it's still it's good to notice, right? Like if a flurry of bets come out of nowhere and for a team, and then it comes out that the starting pitcher for the other team gets scratched, hey, let's put two and two together, realize that maybe something went on here. Somebody made a few $100. I hope it was worth it, right? I mean, whatever. I hope it was worth it for your account to get banned and all the things that go along with it.
And if the sportsbook in question is the one that we believe that it is that took these wagers, I guarantee you those limits were not extremely high. We are not talking about one of the sharp sports books, giant air quotes on that likes to take big money.
Guys, everything we do, absolutely free here, so please head over to LegalSportsReport.com. Take in all of the great words that Adam and team over there are putting on the website, and, of course, this podcast, absolutely free as well. So all we ask of you costs you $0.00 in just 2 seconds of your time. Hit that pause button, go down, and give us a 5-star review, and maybe even if you want to drop a few words in there as well, certainly do appreciate that. For Adam, for Dustin, I'm Matt. Talk to you guys next week.